Welcome to the Quack and Road podcast. My name is Quack Pui Lan. This afternoon, I'm going to speak to Claudio Carvalhaes. Hey, where are you? Oh.
Whoa! Quack!
What are you doing?
Oh, quack! Quack and roll, quack and roll, quack and roll. Oh, quack you on! Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Welcome. How are you?
Wajcha was just here.
Oh, that's Wajcha?
Wajcha. Sometimes he comes in and takes my place. When this nose comes in, and then the clown comes and I have no control.
Yeah.
I hope he was nice to you.
He was very nice to me.
Phew. Okay.
Yes.
That's good. I'm glad. Thank you. Sorry I'm a little late, but I'm here.
Claudio, you are a performer and scholar who works in the intersection of arts, ritual, and religion. You have produced this award-winning play, which won the Most Creative Production Award in the New York Theater Festival. Can you share with us what this play means and why you wrote the play?
So first, thank you, teacher, for inviting me. I'm deeply honored. And Wajcha too. And Formaggio. Formaggio couldn't come, but Formaggio is here and send you his love to you too, is our little rat, who is also part of the production. So this play came in stages. First, about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I had this conversion experience to the land, in which I started to hear about all of the disasters that are coming upon us. And at that time, I adopted 3 kids. With the rising of these kids in my life and what was happening to the earth, I got so anxious that I needed to do something. And I remember it was Robin Kimmerer who came to Union once, who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass. And she gave a talk and she said, we don't have rituals for the situation that we are living. We need new rituals. And then I said, here I am. At that moment, I threw away all of my courses that I had taught before, and I started new courses. But as I started, the information that I was giving in class was not enough. So I felt that there was a need for some movement, something to go to our hearts. And it was during COVID that I was walking and I received the spiritual visit of my father, who died in 2005. And he was a clown. And so I thought, what if I talk about these heavy things, about the climate crisis and all of the horrendous things that we are seeing from the perspective of a clown who is joyful, who is kind, who wants to see happiness everywhere. And so then I started to write as I walked, and it was piece by piece came. And then it was together. So I wrote, and then I sent to the New York Theater Festival, and I got accepted. And then we had to put it together. So I brought a theater director from Brazil. I had artists here. My students, all my students were the artists of the play. And the idea behind it is how Wajcha, the clown, comes from the Andean culture, which is part of about 10 countries in Latin America: Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, all the way to Argentina, Venezuela. And there's a character there that is called Wajcha. And Wajcha is an orphan who's searching for his parents. As I heard from an indigenous theologian from Bolivia, Wajcha now is also seen as someone who's searching for the earth. And the earth in the Andean culture means Pachamama. So the play then is when Wajcha, the clown, meets Pachamama. So it tells the story of how this clown is called to see what's happening with the earth. He meets the earth, and the earth has a huge band-aid on the big earth. And so he doesn't realize that he had this Band-Aid too. And if the earth is sick, everybody is sick. So he's into this journey to connect with the land, but he does not know how. So he meets a rat, because that comes from my personal life. When growing up in my house, I had rats and cockroaches, and I hated it. So I had to deal with my own fear of rats. So then Formaggio comes, and there is a struggle between them there until they become friends. And he receives a name, Formaggio, which is cheese in Italian. So it is Formaggio who helps Wajcha to meet with the land. And when he meets the Pachamama, he understands that not only the earth is sick, but if the earth is sick, he is sick too. So the whole show wants to touch our hearts, to show the horrible things that is happening right now, but at the same time, give us this sense that, yeah, we still can do something. We still can change something. And so the hope is that we are going to connect with the land more. So that was the hope with the play.
Can you tell us something about the costume that you are wearing?
Oh, yeah. The costume was done by my sister-in-law in Brazil. It was a research that I want him to be part of the land. I want to be joyful. And I love flowers. And this flower is my favorite flower, the sunflower. And so I said, Lola, we need to have a lot of flowers. And so I have flowers everywhere. In
Beautiful.
And my pants are trees as well. And because he's searching, he's always going somewhere. So he has all of the joyful things in his bag. And here I have all of the props. Teacher, if you allow me, I think Wajcha wants to do something to you. Hold on just a second.
Oh, yes.
And
So you have been performing in different
I've
venues.
been performing with this in different places. And that has been a gift to do this, because it's a place that I feel that I am the fullest of myself, especially because Wajcha speaks a language called Gramelo. Gramelo is a language in the theater world. It has nothing to do with any language, but everybody understands something. If I do this, I didn't say anything, but you understood what I said. I feel like being in another country. I am illiterate in 3 languages. I don't speak English, Portuguese, or Spanish. So in Wajcha, when Wajcha speaks Gramelo, it's my full language. It's my lingua franca. It's my Esperanto. It's the language that I feel more at home. So it's been different parts of this play that has to do with my own self, but also myself in relation with the land. And that transformation have changed me in so many ways. So it's my way of calling attention to all of us to pay attention and reconnect with the land.
How has it been received?
It's been received really well. As I said, it was my first play. When I sent to the New York Theater Festival, which is a big festival, I thought they're never going to accept it. And I did. And we had to pull it like in 30 days we had to put it together. It was a lot of work, 8 hours of work every day, and my students too. It was intense. But when we did, I had no idea that we would get this award. So it was very well received. And then we did here in New York. And then we did here at Union in New York too for 3 nights. Then we went to Yale. And then we did one play in Philadelphia at Hispanic Theater, Esperanza. And so it's been well received. But now I think I'm going to do a version of Wajcha in a smaller sense, that I can be more of a monologue, because it takes so much to do this massive play. It's still open, it's still going. But I think I might turn it into more of a monologue so that I can travel easily to other places.
I always admire your including art in your teaching of liturgics and worship, and also in your sermons. Why is this important?
Oh, it's some cultures, the thinking feeling is not separated. In Latin America, we call it sentir pensar, which is to feel and to think. So for me, the reason I did ritual is because I could put the entire world there. I could put theology and Bible and pastoral care, but I could put also philosophy. I could put all of the feelings that we have there too. And so in that way, it's my heart. I always start with my heart. And it is from there that my head will think of something. And so for me, arts is the way to express it, is the way to show myself in fullness. I cannot do just a paper. I have to use my body. I have to move. I have to do something. I have to create. That's what keeps me alive. And that's why art for me, without art, I wouldn't be able to teach. I wouldn't be able to preach. I wouldn't be able to write a single word. Art for me is key to live.
That is very true. And you also have done research on ritual.
Right.
You organize workshops in different continents, gathering prayers, gathering people to write liturgy. Can you tell something about the process behind your edited book, Liturgy from Below?
Oh, yeah. Where is it? This one, Liturgies from Below. It actually helped me from the very beginning. The whole idea was because I come from a place where liberation theology for me was not a rational choice, it was a way of surviving. Liberation theology saved me. And so for me, liberation theology was a way of listening to those who didn't have anything. And so I had to say, what is it in our rituals, in our liturgies that we are speaking the voice of those at the bottom? The same way that we talk about Christology from above or Christology from below, we also have to talk about prayers from above and prayers from below. So this for me was a way of preaching, of praying from below. So what I did was to go to 4 continents. To Asia, we went to the Philippines. Africa, we went to South Africa. Europe, we went to Chile, which was the place where the refugees would come from Africa. One of the closest places, not the, but one of the closest places from Africa. And in all the Americas, we went to Jamaica. In each continent, I invited 25 local people from various countries. From Asia, there was 13 countries represented, of pastors, theologians, lay people, artists, that came. And what we would do is we would gather together. The first day, we would have a whole day of learning about the country. Local theologians, local pastors would teach us all about the place. We'd had a preparation before that, but when we arrived, we had a full day of learning about the country, about religion, economy, politics, the struggles of the country, and so on and so forth. Then the methodology of it would be taught, which is we're just going to go and live with people for 3 days, and we're not going to pray for anybody. We're going to listen. All that we need to do is to listen. And so what the local people do is to choose 3 or 4, usually 4 groups that were vulnerable. For instance, in the Philippines, we had a group that was being evicted, one that was a group of mothers who were like Duterte in Philippines, were killing all the young people because of a war against the drugs. We had the indigenous people, and we had another group that were doing a strike against this big company. So those 25 people, they could choose what group they would go. And then they would live with them for 3 days. They would sleep in their homes and learning about their lives, eat their food. They were all compensated, of course. And then after this time, they would come back with some of the people from those places. And then for 2 days, we sat down and we said, what did we hear? So the first question would be, after what you said, what would be your prayer of invocation of God? How would you invoke God from that place? Or what would be your prayer of rage? What would be a prayer of forgiveness? What would be a prayer of desperation? And we would divide the groups into 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and they would write prayers with each other based on what they saw. And the most fascinating thing was this. What I saw there is not we were so diverse. We had in this group, like from the most liberal to the most conservative, everything you can imagine, it was there. And I remember the first day in the Philippines, we had this group of people who were so angry that they had this prayer. And I asked them to pray for everybody. Everybody would have to pray so that we would hear everybody's prayer. And this group was so angry that they had cursing in their prayers. Ooh. When that happened, I could see people were so angry. And I said, that's our first day and the last, because it's going to be gone now. But what happened, people raised their hands and I said, we just needed a minute to pause and to understand why there was this language. And then when we start sharing, this person who could not agree with anything with this prayer, she said, I would never talk to God like that. This for me is offensive. But I've been where my sister and my brother been. Where they've been, I know the pain. So I understand. And that was the powerful thing that opened up for the rest of the group. And so every place there was a challenge, there was a transformation, and we wrote 462 acts of worship that goes from baptismal prayers, Eucharistic prayers, all of the parts of the worship, benedictions, invocations called worship, gathering prayers, and there's a thematic prayer. And this really transformed my life. The one thing that happened to me personally was, the word absurd in Greek, it's divided by two words, right? Absurdus, which means ab is too loud of a sound that makes you surdus, which is deaf. So it's a loud sound that makes you deaf. And it was one of those meetings that I started to get tinnitus, which is this ongoing sound in my ear that never stops. And that was because of the sound of so much absurd that we saw. I'll never forget this one meeting we had with 7 mothers who lost their kids from 15 to 21, that the state killed them and didn't even care. And we did a worship with those 7 women. And they told the stories of their children, of their boys. And it was there and in other places that I learned the word wailing and crying. It was this deep cry as I had never heard, this deep cry. And that was so intense and powerful and difficult. And that was so much absurd. That was one of the parts of my tinnitus. So I carried this book in my body. 24/7. It's in my body. This book is in my body. But I think that's the only way against fascism, against the ways of losing the gospel of Jesus. I think the way is to pray with those who are at the margins, suffering without anything to survive, but they are still there. So that's the methodology and some of the stories of the time that took a full year to do this.
This is a wonderful resource. Now you teach worship at Union Theological Seminary in New York. Can you share with us what do you teach and what are the resources you use in your teaching?
Yeah. Since my change to the earth, everything, my sources changed a lot. I've been learning more about indigenous knowledges. I'm learning a lot from scientists as well. And so I'm trying to combine all of this tradition that I received with all this new knowledge. So in some ways, it feels like I'm starting from scratch. And so like my intro to worship from the time that I started teaching in 2007 to now has changed dramatically. And now it is introduction to rituals from the ground, from the earth. Because what I've learned is that for so many people, all of the indigenous people who are related to the land, ritual is not only like a Christianity, a side of it, right? There's theology, there's Bible, there's ritual, there's the liturgy. No, for some people, ritual is where you hold all your knowledge. Your entire cosmology is in the ritual. And so it depends on how you perceive things. So I have changed everything now. In one of my classes, for instance, we can only begin a class if we listen to the birds. So I open the window and we have to stay there. And until we hear a bird, you cannot start the class. And New York is hard because so much noise of all kinds, buses and trucks and construction and people. To hear the birds, it's so difficult. But then we have to sit there and wait. And it's interesting because at the beginning, like some students get mad. They say, we came here for the class. We have to stay like half hour waiting for a bird to sing. And I said, without the birds, we cannot survive. The birds are the conditions, the possibilities of our living. So we have to honor them. And then everybody starts to pay attention. And everybody's eager to hear the bird. And it's a funny thing. By the end of the semester, like 2 classes before the end, I start the class without that, just to see what happens. And usually they go, Professor, where's the birds? We haven't started with the birds. So teaching is about changing perceptions. It's an aesthetic process of where do we learn where our knowledge is. It is in the books, but it is in us. But it is in the ground. It is in the birds. It is in the trees. So there's more of going outside. I'm still learning now to go outside and to learn from it. So it means that now I have to read about the trees. I have to read about other animals because I think that they worth as much as we do. I do funerals for any roadkills. I have to stop my car, get the animal, and do a burial with the song. And because of that, I had to learn how they live, about the environment, and why we never pay attention to the environment, and how much our stories are all human, to human, for human, about human. Why do we have this speciesism that we think that we are la crème de la crème, that God has only to do with us humans? That was a transformation for me from what I learned from John 3:16. For God so loved the world. Before, when I was an evangelical and I need to save everybody from hell, I had to preach to everybody so that they would give their lives to Jesus. But then our liberation theology says God loved. The love is not the parish at the end of the verse, but it's the love. So it is the love of my life here, of people here with dignity, with food, with health insurance, with housing, and with a way of living well. But then adding to it, so God loved the world was my third transformation into the land, which means that if God loved the world, that means that there is no distinction between me and Maju. There's no distinction between me and that bird right there outside of my window. And so God so loved the world, so I have to love the whole world. And I'm trying to learn now how other species can turn, twist, transform, convert my own thinking, feeling. And that is a whole process of transformation of my heart, of how and to whom I pay attention to. So in some ways, it's one question that I ask in one of my books: where and with whom we pray is the heart of the Christian faith. Where and with whom? And I'm trying to see not only with the marginalized and those who are struggling, but also with my whole landscape, with my whole bioregion, paying attention to the poor and to the earth. It's what Leonardo Boff said about the cry of the earth and the cry of the oppressed. It's what Frantz Fanon said, right? It's the wretched of the earth with the wretched earth. Those are my resources now for all the classes that I teach: learning with the earth, indigenous knowledges, rituals from the earth, and sacraments, globalization and ecology, decolonial liturgies, and so on and so forth.
You are such a creative teacher and performer. How do you nurture your own creativity and spirit?
I need to keep a sense of wonder. The world wants to crash us down, right? Capitalism is a machine of sadness. I have to keep joy in order to survive. And so when I'm feeling that I was going to be crushed by all of the disasters of the earth and of the world, Wajcha came, and Wajcha kept me alive. And so I have a sense of wonder, of waking up and saying, I'm alive. I'm alive. And just walk around and see another bird singing. I remember I did this with my kids once. I took them to the bus stop. I was walking with them and I said, oh, stop. Can you hear it? Oh, hear it. Can you see it? Oh. And they said, Dad, what's happening? Listen. I said, Dad, what's going on? You hear the birds? I said, oh, it's the birds. Yes, the birds. So we go to the bus stop. But then a few months later, I was only with my son. He was about, I don't know, 7 or 8. And he stopped me on the track and said, Dad, can you see it? I said, what? Can you see it? See what? Can you hear it? What? We are late. Let's go to the bus. I said, the birds. I said, so perhaps I'm teaching this to other people so they can remind me of not losing sight of the joy. Perhaps this is to help people to laugh so they can remind me that their laughter is what keeps me alive. And I think that's why I'm doing this.
Thank you so much for your work. Can you sing a song for us?
Oh, yes. Do you know that it's a song about the bees? It's a song that I composed that is part of the play. It's about a bee. And do you know that the Beatles also have a song for the bees?
No.
Let it be. See? Let it be. So this is influenced by the Beatles. So we close the show with this song. I wanted to be like a bee in a beehive, fly around the flowers, yeah, pollinating the fields. I wanted to be like a honey bee, like being sweetness to the world, offering kindness and love. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be true. I wanted to be loving. I wanna be kind. I wanted to be like a thunder in the sky, like the flying of a butterfly, yeah, like a bee in a beehive.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Teacher, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm so deeply thankful to you. Thank you. And Wajcha thanks you too.
Thank you very much for joining the podcast. And if you like this episode, please click subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.